Hello and welcome to the Now Why podcast. My name is Kay Vessey and I'm going to be your host for today. And this podcast is all about talking about the magic and the power of print. Today in the hot seat we have Simon Jones. Simon is responsible for the programme called Top 30 Under 30. This is a successful recognition and development programme that puts young potential absolutely in the spotlight. His mission is to give young people a platform to be celebrated for their contributions at work, to help develop them into effective leaders and to promote them as role models, sharing their stories to help them inspire the next generation. Originating in Hull and the Humber region, Top 30 Under 30 has expanded into Leeds and this year into West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire, with other and further expansion platforms on the horizon. I'm really excited to talk to Simon today because he has integrated print into his programme. So welcome, Simon, to the Now Why podcast.
Pleasure's mine.
So my first question to all of my lovely guests is, tell me about the first time that you encountered print and the impact that it had on you.
Print was actually introduced to me by a lovely lady who's been part of my programme for a long time, Nicola Elwood. So Nicola has been trained in print for a while, and the leadership programme I've developed has sort of has evolved over time, and we've always looked at working at the different aspects of leadership, and the area that she was responsible for was about getting our winners to find out about themselves. And so I was there going, I like the sessions, I just don't think it's quite impactful enough yet. And she just went, you need print. And I was like, right, what's that? And I was like, okay. And she was like, look, trust me, you need print. And I was like, okay, you keep, that's fine. I don't know what it is. So I went and did a little bit of research, and she said, the best way of actually experiencing print is for you to be printed and for you to see it. So I was like, okay, let's go through that process, and always up for being a guinea pig. And actually, yeah, when the report came to me, it was, oh wow, okay, this is it's explaining me in language that I wouldn't necessarily put to myself, but I know it's true. Does that make sense? So and obviously, because we all have a tainted vision of ourselves, I suppose, only see the good, not necessarily the bad, and all those sorts of things, and so when you sort of displayed as shadow and best self, and you're looking at your shadow, you're going, yeah, I know that's me, yeah, that's quite it's something you have to swallow, I suppose. And if you've got good self-awareness, then you say it's you. And so that was the moment where I was like, okay, right, I need to now incorporate this in. So at the time, and I don't even know if you know this actually, but at the time so obviously the money that was spent was actually a personal investment. We didn't generate the money through the nomination selection process that year. I just made the decision that we were going to invest the money to implement it in, and then I'll figure it out later on down the line. So that sort of was the level of impact it had on me. It made me put my hand in my pocket and put some money in to make sure that my winners got that experience as well. So yeah, that was the first time I came across it.
That's incredible. No, and I didn't know that, and that is incredible. So it obviously did have a huge impact on you, seeing it in black and white and seeing those two different states that we operate in. So I know, and I've worked with you over the past couple of years with the 30 Under 30 programme, and I know that it's an incredible programme, but I think our listeners would probably love to hear a little bit more about what it's designed to do and how you integrate print into that programme.
So as I say, it's a recognition and development process essentially. So the idea around it is to give a platform for young people who are doing amazing things at work. Initially, the recognition to say you're doing amazing and give them that confidence boost, because a lot of young people have that imposter syndrome going on quite loud and proud in their heads, and so a bit of reassurance for them that they're on the right path, doing the right things, is, I think, really important. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and that I spotted when setting Top 30 up was this overnight manager effect that a lot of young people go through. And I would suggest that, I don't know, maybe as high as, and this is figures plucked out the air, but as high as 99% of young people go through this transition without any real sort of understanding of what that transition means. So what I'm talking about is that transition of a young person who starts off in their career in a tactical doing role, whether they're there to do sales, to do marketing, to do production, whatever it is. And then because they're good at doing a job, they then get promoted either to a team leader, a supervisor, manager, whatever it may be. And then they are assigned the role of essentially leading, managing people that do the job. And what is never explained to them is actually, in order to do that and do that well, yes, you have to know the job still, but you also have to have a number of other skills and other bits of insight that will help you to lead, to motivate, to guide, and all those, and to coach, and all those sorts of things, your team. So because that doesn't happen traditionally in most businesses in the UK, I decided that it's really important that we put something in place to fill that gap, so that these amazing young people who are clearly doing good things because they've been recognised by their businesses, to actually give them, to fulfil that gap for them and give them that skill set and that self-awareness that they need so that they can start to become effective leaders and to start to drive a new form of a leadership brand for themselves and maybe within their organisations themselves. And yeah, so that's where the idea came from initially. As I say, leadership programs, there are a lot available, but my goal with the leadership program is to make sure it punched hard, that it had real effect and real impact on our winners. And yeah, since 2019, I've had the feedback that the program's been life-changing by at least one member of our cohort every year. So that's a testament I'm proud of. I don't know what this year's cohort have yet to say, so I'm hoping I keep that run going. But yeah, and then obviously, as I say, there's sort of three traditional segments to a leadership program. One being around self-awareness and knowing yourself, what you stand for. And what I found in the early days of doing the program was that it was okay, sort of tickled at the outskirts of who these people were, but it didn't, as I said, didn't really have that hard hitting punch moment where it was like, oh wow, okay, I can now really take this and be something with this. And that's where print has really fulfilled that gap for us. Every year since we've had print in, we've had comments from, we get feedback from all our winners. It's all on camera every year. And then ever since print's come in, print has been mentioned as being like one of the key moments for some of our winners, is in that moment of realization, that revelation to them about who they are and what they are. And that information being so useful to them so that they can now understand how they're responding in certain moments and why they're doing so, and why things are triggering them and all those sorts of things. And it's that information is key, and that then gives you, and that insight and that awareness obviously gives you control in terms of then how you next respond. You can't control your initial reaction to stuff, but you can control how you respond because you have awareness of it. And that's where print has been amazing for us in the process and for our winners, obviously.
And I love the fact that you call them winners, because I know the first time that we came along to an event evening, for the winners, and it was that wonderful celebration, and it was a jaw-dropping moment of seeing all of those little videos that people had made and how they talked about print and the impact that it had had, and that self-awareness piece. It's like holding a mirror up, isn't it, to yourself. And sometimes you look at that reflection and you love it, and sometimes you look at that reflection and think, might actually need to change that slightly. So I always kind of describe print as the difference that makes a difference, and it sounds very much that having that as part of your program has created a real powerful impact for everyone that's been involved with being a winner across all three cohorts this year, which is incredible.
Yeah, it really has. And, I said the feedback's been consistent. So obviously 90 people have gone through this process this year. And, there's nobody yet to turn around to us and go, oh, this was useless, or this, even if it's slightly uncomfortable, in terms of, oh, I'm really not, the document has just revealed everything about my inner self, even if it's uncomfortable. Nobody ever comes away from it, from our experience of it at least, where they've gone, oh, this has actually had a negative effect. No, it's always been so fundamentally positive. And I think a big portion of that is because of the age and the audience of our winners. I think for some, depending on your life experience and all those sorts of things, you'll have better insight into yourself than maybe others do. And I think regardless of where they are though with us, they are only early in their careers, so they are still learning about themselves and how they show up. And this, I suppose, really sort of fast tracks that awareness to make sure that they have a full insight as to who they are and what they are.
And I think sometimes, you don't get that within your career until further down the line. So actually being able to have that quite early on, like you say, is an accelerated way of being able to then think about your own practice, how you lead and manage others, the impact that you have on other people, and how that can make such a difference so quickly.
100%. I think leadership is a really interesting topic because I think most people think it's like top echelon of any sort of, so if you take a company, let's say 500 strong for argument's sake, people tend to see that leadership involves probably the top 5-6 people within that organizational chart. That's not, well, you may perceive it that way, but that's not leadership culture. Like, culture is involved across the whole business. And so if you're a leader out there and you're there going, actually, I want people to be their authentic selves, for example, and I want people to lead with their values on show and all those sorts of things. Well, it's great that you top 5 or 6 maybe have had a decent leadership experience with some development, but actually your future talent, your team leaders, your managers, they all need to have that insight if they're going to do that effectively. And return on investment is massive if you invest in this type of thing. So for me, I think so many wins for an organisation investing at this kind of level. It really becomes a no-brainer for me. And not just a win in terms of the organisation because of the performance of that individual, a win in terms of the culture you're creating within the organisation, a win for the individual personally so they can manage themselves better. As I say, I could keep going on about the amount of benefits this type of process can have on a business and on an individual. For me, it needs to happen more, which is what I'm trying to do with what we're doing.
And you're doing an absolutely amazing job. And and I do think that is really interesting, isn't it? Around, we set out with programs like 30 Under 30 or leadership programs where we have a very specific set of outcomes that we're quite clear that people will get from it. But there's always these secondary gains, aren't there? Where people have got individual needs, they've got their own bespoke context that they're operating in, and I'm sure that a lot of them will maybe share stuff that you think, oh, I never actually expected you to get that out of 30 Under 30 and understanding yourself better.
Every year it's a surprise. There's always something, whether it's personal relationships changes because actually they've revealed something for better and for worse, not going to lie, about themselves. Also, like, just the little things in terms of the spin-offs of what happens when we teach them something and then they go off and implement it within their own organizations, whether that be we had a person last year who went away and actually took their team in the end to basically replicate some of the sessions that we did it themselves for on a day's retreat, and just reported back in terms of the feedback from the group, the actual how much better they're working, how much more productive they are, and that's all come from one person's individual experience of a session that then has spun off into a whole bunch of other things. We've got one in this year's class in South Yorkshire who one of the communication sessions that we've done, and they're now essentially going to replicate that for the whole business. And they're doing that again at a day's event for the business where she's going to do a sort of watered down session for the whole business around communication styles. And like, there's just it's impossible to understand all the spin-offs and all the things that happen from this process. The one thing I do know is that regardless of what happens, it's net positive for the business and for the winners.
Now, I know that you have obviously the wonderful Nicola Elwood and Gillian Mason, who, are print accredited coaches that have been accredited for many years and do an absolutely sterling job at introducing print and taking people through that journey. And you use print right the way through your program, don't you? And have the very specific print discovery, but then obviously, continue to refer to it. So this is a bit of a funny question, really, because I know that the print profile has a number of elements to it, but I wonder if you have a very particular part of that report that you love the most.
That's a really good question. So I'll actually tell you a story about my 4, actually.
Okay.
So, I've always known I'm a perfectionist. So I'm a 1-4 just for the audience. So I've always known the perfectionist side of me. Always knew that, and I've been very at peace with that for a long time. The 4. To be special and find meaning, I really struggled with initially. The word special, I struggled with, and it's because of my interpretation of what I thought that meant. Actually now, I love it, because I actually realise that that's such a big part of who I am in terms of making me who I am and why I do what I do. I wear my 3-piece suits and I put myself out there to really help these people as much as I can. And I wouldn't be doing any of that stuff if it wasn't for my 4. I really wouldn't be. But it was just a blind spot that I had, because I didn't really ever see myself in that way. So actually, the thing I really love now, although initially it came with friction, is the fact that I've come to accept that as being part of me. And I think that's just really helped me be a bit more content with who I am, actually, and rather than battle against it, actually come to accept it. So yeah, that now holds a special place for me. It also allows me to empathise when somebody is struggling with their whatever they've been given, because I went through that journey myself. So I think it's a testament to the fact that that blind spot that you may have, that you might think, oh, that doesn't sound like me, actually probably is you, and actually it's a bit of self-work to get yourself to a place where you're more content with it. And I've done that work, and I'm really happy with it now.
I know you've talked a little bit. You've talked about kind of outcomes and measurements and return on investment, which any type of program like this within an organisation, they want to know what type of return on investment they're going to get, don't they? And sometimes that can be a hard measure, and sometimes it can be a soft measure. What are the types of things that you would look at from a measurement point of view to say that was successful, that was effective, actually that has hit the nail on the head of the outcomes that we want as a top 30 under 30 and that individual?
So we focus totally on the outcomes in the sessions, right? Because we then know that that's going to generate outcomes externally to the sessions, if that makes sense. So I think one of the issues around certain training provision, certain programs, is that they're very good at telling you what you should know, but they don't really. But then you leave the room, and then within 5 minutes you've forgotten most things that have been spoken about. So because I don't come from a traditional training L&D background, I've maybe done it in a slightly different way. I don't know really, but I've really focused in on, I don't want our winners to experience that 3 hours, 4 hours of sitting there, PowerPoint presentation, looking sort of out the window slightly because they're bored, all that sort of stuff. And then they come away from it going, that was all right, but I've not remembered a thing. So I've really focused on making sure that we have 3 core objectives for every session we do. And I want 3 core outcomes that really land with each participant. And the reason why I'm talking about that is because that then triggers off the outcomes in the business themselves. And it's with 30 young people in a cohort, sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's the way they need to communicate, sometimes it's around their self-awareness and all those sorts of things. But if we concentrate on covering all those areas off, they'll then go back to their businesses. You'll see a step marked change in their behaviour because of we're delivering properly in the sessions themselves. And then that is the thing that then spins off. So, you know, in terms of outcomes, you know, whether it be, you know, one bit of feedback I had from, it was from the University of Hull, actually. So they put somebody forward last year, and, you know, they turned around to me and said, you know, you've developed this person sort of 3 times faster than you know, they've taken 3 steps forward based on the year they were with you, rather than just without you, basically. And you know, that conversation was oh, you're Simon from 30 to 30. I just want to say thank you for your help with this person. And I'm like, that's amazing, you know. And it's hard because it's, you know, leadership, you know, it's hard to quantify. You know, you can't turn around and go, you know, we can guarantee you more money on your bottom line. We can guarantee you, you know, a real, you know, change of the way they're going to approach things. Or, you know, fundamentally, they're still going to be the same human. But yeah, my God, if you invest in it, you do see change. You see real change in who they are, I'd say how they show up. The thing, especially for, I suppose, for a lot of young people, they often go into situations and react instead of just taking a moment and then responding, you know. So instead of reacting, they're now starting to respond in the appropriate way, starting to deal with themselves in a different way. And that, you know, again, all of a sudden you start to see their career trajectory go up and their performance improve because they are starting to really be considerate around the people around them and the impact they may have. And yeah, I mean, as I say, it depends on what, you know, depends on who's listening to this, will depend on what they want to hear. But does it add value to your business? Absolutely, it does. Does it breed better cultures? Absolutely, it does. Does it make your person more skilled? Absolutely, it does. Can I give you a definite in terms of in 12 months' time you're going to see A, B, and C? No, but I can tell you it's going to happen. And it's that, you know, say 240 people in Hull, 60 people in Leeds and West Yorkshire, 30 people in South Yorkshire now, and you know, we don't see any different. Every time it's the same process and it's the same type of return. Yeah, advocate
And it goes on, doesn't it? You know, and it continues to go on. I have this little question, and you might have already shared this, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. So, in the spirit of sharing best practice, what do you think others can learn from you?
So I think from my side, the one thing that I think we've done particularly well is on the developmental program we've created. It's actually just focusing on the outcomes, because I think that sometimes people, and again, I'm not a learning and development professional, but my experience of being on developmental programs for most of my career is that I think a lot of people get a little bit obsessed with like imparting knowledge onto you, and you know, you need to know, you know, 20 things in this sort of 4-hour space or whatever else. And actually, you know, from our side, we just simplify it down to 3 key outcomes that we're looking to develop from every session. And then from that, we then work backwards to really make sure that those outcomes are generated. So if we want to, you know, if we want somebody to understand a particular skill set, for example, coaching, so we want them to understand coaching. So how are we going to make sure that, you know, they really embrace and engage with coaching as a methodology? So we then figure that out in terms of activity. And then it's like, okay, so what they're then going to need to know about coaching before going into the activity to then generate the outcome. So we're really outcome focused in every session. And what that's done for us is that, you know, we've then really taken ownership of that. It's then made sure that we've landed those key points across to the audience, which I think it then allows us to have those sort of magic moments with those winners, to be able to go, oh man, I didn't see this, didn't recognize this, you know, oh, I've got this new skill, I'm really, you know, embracing it, because we're kind of obsessed around just that small number of objectives for each session. And so that would be the one thing I would say is that, you know, I think sometimes, and again, I'm not speaking in very general terms here, but sometimes, you know, a program or a session or some learning it could be landed better, and it could be more effective if there was a bit more focus on actually what we want the participants to know and to really take home, and not be so obsessed with imparting information on through a PowerPoint presentation, for example, that in fairness nobody then remembers. So that would be my nugget of gold. I would say. All right.
Well, that is a fabulous nugget, and I know how wonderful the program is. I've had the pleasure of being a little fly on the wall for some of your programs, and and how engaged people are, and the wonderful facilitation, and it's just a fabulous program. So if any of our listeners are interested in getting in contact with you or finding out more about the 30 Under 30 program, what should they do next?
Website www.top30under30.co.uk. Nice and simple. I was amazed that URL was available when I took it on. But yeah, so top30under30.co.uk. You can come and find us there, and you'll see where we are geographically at the time. You see more about the program. You can hear more from our winners on there as well. Yeah, everything you need to know is on the website.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So I'm building a little bit of a playlist, Simon. I think I've told you this before. So my playlist is called, now that's what I call my why. So I'm inviting all of our guests to share with us one song that is their go-to for a motivational pick-me-up, so that song that you go, I really need that little bit of drive or energy or passion or something. What am I going to listen to? So what is your song? And why have you chosen it?
I've gone for Live for the Moment by the Sherlocks. And the reason why is because I'm one of these overthinkers because of my perfectionism. So I'm always in my head, always analysing, always, puzzling things out. And I think sometimes I need to remember to live for the moment, and so yeah, that's the song. I love the song. I love the Sherlocks as a band anyway. But that song and the lyrics of that song makes me, puts me in a better sort of position sometimes. It makes me realise I need to get my head out of the mud and then maybe appreciate and embrace the things I've got today. So yeah, that's why I picked that song.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, that will be added to our list. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure having a further conversation with you about print and 30 Under 30. It's been wonderful to hear kind of the story and the origin of the programme, and, long may it continue to blossom that potential in all those wonderful leaders, not only in our region, but in other regions. And I'm sure you're going to be going further and further and further afield.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
No, I'm looking forward to doing that whenever that happens. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Simon. What a pleasure it's been talking to. Wasn't that a wonderful overview of how Simon uses print in his programme 30 Under 30? So if you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and remember to tune in again to hear more power of print in our next and up and coming episode.